This week our theme is going to be related to doing the most important thing. Do the most important thing. And that first word's important. It's not merely believe the right thing or even believe the most important thing. It's doing the most important thing. We're starting the week in Matthew chapter 22, and I'll be preaching from verses 34 to 40. This is part of the continued escalation of the conflict between Jesus and his opponents in Jerusalem in his final days before his betrayal, arrest, and crucifixion. And now it's back to the Pharisees after Jesus silences the Sadducees. And a lawyer comes to test him again with a question and asked him, "Teacher, which commandment in the law is the greatest?" So what's the most important thing the law says, basically? What's the most important thing to do according to the law? And our verse for today is verse 37. He, Jesus, said to him, "You shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind." I encourage you to read the whole passage. This is what I'll be preaching on today. But I want to just begin by talking about, notice that Jesus doesn't say, love the Lord your God with some of your heart, with some of your soul, with a little bit of your mind. It's, first of all, love the Lord your God, which implies a personal relationship. It's not worship God who's out there somewhere. It's worship the Lord your God. Jesus wants us all to have a personal relationship with God and with him, with Jesus himself. But then he's talking about our heart, our soul, and our mind. And I'll be talking about this in my sermon, but more briefly, biblically speaking, our heart is not just a muscle that pumps blood through our body. Our heart is seen in many ways as the seat of our emotions, our passions. So we are to love God with all of our heart, with all of our emotion and passion and the energy that implies. We're also to love God with all our soul, and that's with all of our being, kind of who we are holistically. That's from our physical body, our heart, our emotions, our spirit. Our soul encompasses all of those things. So with all of who we are, we're to love God. And then very interestingly, Jesus says we're to love God with all of our mind. Now the Great Commandment, as it's given to us in Deuteronomy chapter 6, verse 5, says we are to love God with all of our might. And that word means exceedingly or in abundance we are to love God. And Jesus, in the midst of a section where he's showing he really studied and knew the scriptures, tells us to love God with all our mind. And I remember seeing a poster many years ago it had a picture of the crucifixion, and under it were the words, "He died to take away your sins, not your mind." We want to bring all of our intellect, all of our education, all that we can bring mentally to loving God as well. The Great Commandment invites you and me to love God with every bit of our passion and emotion, the totality of our being, and all of our mind, because God deserves all of it.